All right. Let's do some stuff. A little bit early, but figured that'd be all right. So today we're going to write some programs. Right now I am getting Go set up in my IDE, or sorry, in my VM. And I'm going to use VS Code because that's what I'm familiar with. All right. I always forget how to install Debian. There it is. That's what it is. What is going on with my VM? Won't let me right click. Always problems when you go live with anything. I'm telling you. I did just update this, so it could be hating me because I just did an update, which happens. Never update before you're supposed to do stuff. Looking for my package. I don't remember what it was called. It is code. Okay. This thing does not like Mozilla. Something goofy has happened with Mozilla. What is going on here? All right, let's reboot this thing, see what's going on. Yeah, stuff happens. Stuff happens when you're live. But yeah, so the idea here is we're going to be writing an install script that will basically help me whenever I'm doing setting up a Dropbox for a client. It will update, install tools and stuff that I use. So I don't have to really do a lot of clicking, manual, yes, blah, 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 whatever it is. Just help make my life a little bit easier. That's the plan. It's going to be good. I had an old script I was using to do this probably the last 3 or 4 years and just adding new features as I need them. So in this one, we are going to be just writing it in a different language and removing some of the things that I found annoying with my other script and turning it into a binary as well versus a script, just to give us more functionality. It still does not like Mozilla. What in the world is going on here? What we'll do is just run another update, see if there's anything broken in here. And if anything, I can always just get a new VM. It's not too big of a deal. But yeah, it's upgraded. So something's hanging. I wonder what. I can't even move. Can't even move the window. This is nuts. All right, we're gonna grab a new version of Kali. Gonna download a new version of Kali and just utilize that. I don't feel like troubleshooting. So we'll kill this guy. And then it'll be done pretty quickly. It should be done in a few minutes. But yeah, removing some of the things that I've found more annoying more than anything, and just streamline the tool a little bit more. Write it with a little bit better coding practices, more extensive, all the cool buzzwords for dev. Let's fix this. Before, I just wrote it in Bash, and it utilized some other Python scripts for some of the functionality. So it'll be nice to have everything in one tool, in a binary. It'll run faster. And I've been using Go a lot more lately. It is pretty easy to work with, I'd say. It's not too bad. If you haven't hopped on the Discord, check it out. It's in my information page on YouTube. So check that out. You can hop in there and ask any questions about this. The comments should be open for this video as well if you have any questions about Go or why I'm doing something in particular. You'll find that you start automating a lot of the tedious work you have to do. Like, think about all the steps you have to take when you set up a new operating system. It's a pain. So if you can write an install script to do that, it'll save you a ton of time. Like, if I had to sit there and do all of these stuff manually, it'd probably sit there and take me an hour. But with this, I can just set it up and go, or I can just set it up and it'll do its thing. So that's pretty cool. So you have that large upfront cost in exchange for better quality of life down the road. That's why a lot of people write code. I mean, pretty much. So right now it's installing on my screen. You don't really need to see that. But yeah. In the beginning, if you're just starting to get into pen testing or cybersecurity in general, you probably won't automate a lot of stuff because you like to get your hands dirty and you're still in the understanding phase, and which is fine. It's pretty natural progression. But as you get more experience, you find that you have less and less time and you need to make the most of that time. So you start writing scripts because you can say, someone can ask you a question like, hey, I wrote a script for that. Here you go, just run this thing. Or you have to, I don't know, one of the things I had to write a script for early on was I had to dig through, I think it was something like 40 terabytes of logs, and they wouldn't let me put it back into a sim, or no one really thought about it at the time. I wasn't very experienced. I think I'd only been on the job for like 5 months. So I wrote a PowerShell script that could parse through all the logs and find what we needed. We were essentially looking for IP addresses at the time, and we had to write that because you could not do it like look at the file directly because the file was just too big. So you couldn't load it into Excel, you couldn't load it into Notepad or any of that stuff just because of how big it was. But I would say that's one of the first few I did. I talked about it on a podcast the other day. I also automated account creation in one of my first jobs because I did not want to do it. It was boring, and I really had rather spent my time learning cybersecurity stuff. So that's what I did. All right, we have a new Kali instance up. We won't make the mistake of updating. And I will share that now. But yeah, I had the task of creating accounts for all the people at my work. Anytime a new hire was there, they had to get certain accounts created, like a domain account created, and they had to be added to certain groups and all that jazz. And it was pretty boring, and it's not a world I wanted to work in. I didn't want to be in IT. I wanted to get in cybersecurity and hacking. Ultimately, hacking was my goal, being a pen tester. So I automated that work so that I could spend more time with the guy who was handling the vulnerability remediation in the organization and the network people, and also the developers. We had a small developer team as well. So I hung out with them, learned the skills of their trade. It was a good time. All right, let's see if this wants to cooperate. So sometimes it's easier just to get a new OS. Also, one of the things I recommend, that was just a blowaway one I didn't really care about anyways. But if you are setting up a VM and you think you'll be pretty destructive, I would take a snapshot of it so that you can just roll back at any point. And it just saves you a lot of life, especially with what we do in pen testing. Take a snapshot after you get it updated and set up for the first time. Just take a snapshot, because chances are you're going to be following guides to fix problems that you come across, and you will inadvertently mess something up. Like I was writing a script for a Python script for something when I was doing the OSCP, and it erased the entire operating system. So that was fun. Wow, that was very slow. Very slow. All right, so you would think I would have remembered how to do this, but I did not. But I do remember the name of the file. // downloads, and then we're gonna do what? Sudo d. Probably don't need to use sudo for that. And I was wrong. We do need sudo. So we'll see how long this takes to install. Hopefully it won't take too long to write the code we need to write here, because I've done it before. So I have an idea of what I would like. So one of the things I did do before I started this VM up was that I added additional RAM or memory for this VM. And that's because IDEs are notorious for being hogs with RAM. So I wanted to go ahead and nip that one ahead of time because I knew it was going to happen. Now I have to remember how to install. Oh, I think it's down here. Well, let's actually look. Let's see. Install Go in VS Code. So usually they tell you what things you should be installing. So Golang is what we want. Let's rock that. There we go. It looked like someone was kind of squatting, didn't it? They created one called Golang. I wonder if that had any malware in it. I bet it does. All right. I think there's one more thing we're supposed to install as well. Maybe not. All right, let's start working on our first program and see what happens. Let's create a directory to work within. We'll just do it here. Just call it Go project. Go install. That sounds like a good name. I forget what. So nice. Usually Visual Studios, like the regular one, it does a lot of the work for you. So it's kind of funny that this does not. Because there's actually like certain things you need to do to kick it off. And I have to do it every time. Put on diagnose. I found a good guide the other day. This might be it. Install Visual Studio. Oh, we might have to install Go first. Don't know that it's downloaded for us. Let's see. Oh, we got to do that here. We're looking for AMD 64, not ARM. Yep, this should be it. I always forget the untar. I always forget the commands for this stuff. You would think that would have been something that popped up in the thing. So let's see, tar xvzf. Oh, let's do that again, and it's going to place it in the proper directory this time. It's in my path now, and now we should be able to say go version. Nope. And it also might be that we have to do it this way. Nope. Let's try it one more time. Sudo. Struggling to install it here. Let's see if we can find a guide specifically for Kali. When in doubt, look for Kali and specifically. No package. What? Let's try someone else. Let's try this. Oh man, Bash RC hates me. Still didn't get what we wanted. So the source bash RC is supposed to update stuff for you, so you don't have to close out the terminal session and reopen it. But yeah, it didn't work. So it's still not finding Go. Let's see if it's actually in that directory. It is there. Interesting. So everything's in here. So the question is, it may just not have ended up in my directory. Okay. Here we go. Stupid stuff. All right, now we have Go. Now we should be able to do things. So let's just throw this in the new file. Just reading here to see what it is. I thought there were supposed to be some commands you ran at the beginning, but let's give it a go, see if it'll run. We'll just call it main. I just took the name of the first import. So you can see down here, it's doing some business. And we should expect something to print Go at some point. Looks like my VM is like 100% taxed out here. I might have to shut it down and give it more memory. Still chugging though. That's what's kind of funny with VMs, and I just chose a VM so I could isolate what I was sharing. But whenever you use an IDE in a VM, you're basically using a VM inside of a VM. So some people think that's funny, and it is pretty funny. But again, I just wanted to isolate what I was doing, and I needed to be in Kali anyways running the code because that's the operating system it's going to be running off of. So it is what it is. Let me actually look to see how much RAM I have on the system. Let's see, where is it at here? There you go, system. So this system should have 40 gigs of RAM on it. See how much memory. It says I'm using about half my memory right now. So I think what we might do is shut this down. So it is running in an issue. Shut it down and add more RAM. probably. I think I allocated 8, but I may needed to add more. I was on a video this morning talking with some people about getting into pen testing, and like I said on there, troubleshooting's half your job. Pen testing, your stuff's always breaking, and you can't go call a help desk every 5 seconds. You know, it was just itching. If I remember correctly, it should be outputting over here. But it is not. And I'm not sure why. It looks like it hasn't tapped out itself in memory. Maybe we do have to set up our folders. I'm pretty sure there's supposed to be a command you run for the first time. Right. Enter. Oh, yeah, I think that's what I was supposed to do. Go mod init. All right. Now let's see. That solves all our woes. It's doing something. All right, so that's what we needed to do. Go mod init and then name of the file. All right. So if you've done Go before, you're probably yelling at your screen if you're watching this. I'm not a full-time developer. I'm a hacker, so I use stuff, and I just recently started using Go last year for some stuff, for some C2 stuff, and then recently I was doing some wrappers of other Go programs with it. But yeah, we're good to go now. So let's write a list of things we want to do. So I have my code up over here, my original code, and we will take a look at that somewhere, wherever it went. Oh, I might just have to open it again. Oh, no, there it is. All right. So we're going to write out what it is we want to do. And then we'll build the functionality around that. So what I'll do is kind of do comments of what we want here. So update OS. Add new sources. So there's like this whole list of sources that Kali tells you to add, and honestly, I'm not really sure why they tell you to do it. And they just don't automatically include it. I have no clue why, but there you go. So we need to do that. And it's may have changed in it since I wrote the script, but this is just earlier in my script. Another one, we need to update Metasploit. Metasploit used to not update properly, and I had to update it manually to get all the new exploits and stuff that are available. Again, not really sure why that wasn't being updated automatically. We also want to go ahead and start Metasploit DB at startup. So that's just going to be a service, and we'll rock that one. Then we want to install Nessus. Set Nessus to start on startup. I also want to be able to create user and apply software key if possible. It wasn't possible before. You used to not be able to download it without doing some funky business, but now they make it publicly available. Like you got to go into a separate site. You got to log into a site in order to download it. Now you don't have to log in to download their tool. So who knows, people. I also want to go ahead and change root's password. And the reason why is it's set to something unknown, I believe. And so we just want it set to something known. The user you create when you're setting up the OS is there. And it has root. But I also like to be able to access root itself. One of the issues I do want to solve before, we used to only be able to RDP as root. For whatever reason, I think there is some kind of issue going on and I never have time to solve it. So that's one reason I need the root password known, but hopefully I'll be able to solve the RDP problem as well this go around. All right, next section is going to be SSH. We need to create SSH key, set up SSH service to start on boot up. And we also need to copy SSH key to set up directory because we'll need that in order to be able to log into the system. All right, let's see, got that. Now we got set up RDP. And the reason why we have RDP on this, some people are like, what do you need RDP on Kali? Well, there's some tools that are GUI only. Not only that, unless you want to deal with some port forwarding and stuff like that, then having a UI is awesome because if you find an internal web application and you want to play around with it, or you want to navigate the internal web applications from within Kali, it makes it pretty easy if you're just remoted into that system. So just saying. And then I want to disable lid switch. So this is an issue like we send out devices to our clients. And if you close the lid, it puts it to sleep and you can't utilize the system. So I turn it off so you can close it, but it's still fully functional and we can connect to it as needed. I also, this is a new feature that we haven't had. I also want to modify sleep behavior to not sleep or shut down when plugged in. And I've been having to manually do that recently. And then at the end, I would like to print out the services that are running to ensure they're running. All right. So typically what you do in Go is you create files, and each file is going to each file has a name that's specific to the functionality within. And what we could do is we could do everything in here, or we could separate it. So, I'm tired already, man. I'm like a whole person. But I think we might just do that later. Let's go ahead and work on this other stuff here. Let's first look into how to run operating system commands in Go. And then we'll move on from there. Close tabs to the right. Boom. Don't care about any of that. Say run Linux updates. We'll probably have to do some kind of exec function. So there you go. All right, so we have a little snippet here that will execute. Let's see what the difference is. This one's actually grabbing an error as outputs. I kind of want to use that, but it also provides a path. I'm not sure. I've never seen that syntax. Actually, I don't know why we're working so hard. Let me close this and I'll log into ChatGPT. And we'll code with ChatGPT. And that'll allow us to work much faster. All right, let's see what my account is. My new Gmail. There it is. All right, back in action, everyone. All right, here we go. All right. So I'm just kind of giving it some context at first. So just saying, hey, I'm writing a Golang program to help me with setting up a Kali operating system. Give me a function to run app.get update and app gets upgraded. Should be pretty straightforward here. So one thing to point out here is you see it separated where it's just doing a run command here that takes arguments for the actual command and then any args that go with it. So that's pretty good. And here we're seeing the args are each word separated by space as individual arguments. So command's actually sudo and then all the args, and the ... means you can provide as many args as you want. So this actually isn't too shabby. So we will copy all of this into our code. And then we'll also want this bottom section. All right, all the errors are fixed. Now let's see if it's actually, take a closer look, see if we want to make any adjustments to it. I will say it's pretty annoying that it splits it up like that. I'd rather concatenate or rather use the full string, but whatever, I guess. That's how it wants to do it. It's handling the errors. That's good. What we may want to do is handle the output, but we can probably do that later, like where we're printing out what was completed. Let's go ahead and run this and make sure it actually works. So we should see in the console so one thing we'll have to handle is, or not, handle the way it's going to be executing this. So in this case, it's using sudo. But if we execute it with sudo privs, we wouldn't have to worry about it. So like if we, well, but if we want to make it more extensible, we probably want to handle it. So we could have it ask for the password up front. So we can say add to this a function to get the password for sudo and make sure to pass it to the sudo command. Let's see what it does with that. Oh, so here's where it's handling it right here. I don't know what the -s means. Let's see if it'll tell us at the end. Password stored in memory, which is true. We can increase security by using PAM libraries, which we might do as well at some point. What I think I will also do is just put our comments to the side. Let me see where they're at in here. They're all at the bottom, so we should be able to just copy all of that and put it at the top. I wonder. It's kind of interesting. It's in debug mode, even though it's not supposed to be in debug mode, and I don't know why. So the password is just Kali because, well, I just got a new VM and I didn't change the password. That's why. So I don't really care if you see that because I'll be blasting this away after this live stream. See if it can tell us what the error is. Sometimes it struggles on specific types of errors. So it says we could maybe just do it in debug mode, which is interesting. Let's give that a go. All right, did not work. So we could run it directly in the terminal. And I had thought about that, but oh, so that works. And I thought about not doing it. Well, I originally thought I was like, well, I could always build it and then run it in the terminal. And I didn't think about running it like that, but that works too. So we'll let it do its thing. Do not do its update. Hopefully it doesn't break anything. And this will be the first bit of the code. Yeah, go ahead and ask. I didn't even notice someone was in here. I was just talking to myself. What's your question? What language is that? Also, by the way, your name. Feel free to ask away. Still learning how to stream better. All right, we'll see if this person asks any questions and we'll reply to them as they come in, if they're still here. Good thing is, after this one update, we won't have to worry about it taking so long in the future because there's nothing, there won't be anything for it to update. So it'll be able to breeze right through that. And what we also might want to add to this is a log of the things that were successful. And we'll probably do that last. Updates, man, the bane of my existence. They're so annoying to me, and I'm in cybersecurity. I can only imagine now normal people feel. They want nothing to do with IT work. I wonder if I can set this thing to notify me when someone's left a comment. But we can go ahead and start looking. I think I'll skip this one. I might be fine without the sources. I think I had to add those specific ones for some tools I was installing, but I don't even use those tools anymore, so we can get rid of that. Let's look at the proper way to update Metasploit now. And we want to look at something recent. And if we can find something from Rapid7, that would be fantastic. But a lot of their stuff is typically related to the paid version. So like you see here, it's all for the paid version with the UI. I don't ever use the actual UI. And I think MSF update doesn't work anymore, I thought. We'll give it a go. See what this other guy says. Yeah, so this is what I typically do, the community repository. So we might just do that. I don't really like how this function is. Might split this up into two. Whenever it's done, of course. All right, so it doesn't look like we'll have to change what I did before for that. So that's going to be pretty straightforward. Let's look at don't want to enable bleeding edge stuff. I will skip that. All right, so we'll leave that there. Now let's so start MSF thing on startup. It should just be a service related to it. So this is typically what you do. And there might not be a way to do the database. I'm sure there is. You should just be able to add it as a service. Like this is a service. And we can always ask ChatGPT. So it's saying using the bash, use the bash RC. It should work. But the problem is, if we have multiple logins, that could cause an issue. So we may just want to start the service, initialize the database, and then leave it at that. Excuse me. This thing's still going. All right, so I think we'll just do these pieces up here and add it to it. So the great news is we have a lot of what we need for all these. These are just operating system commands, so it's pretty straightforward. Then the next piece is going to be install Nessus. How would I install Nessus from the command line? Well, we'll say terminal in Kali. Let's see if it has it. I think they have an API now, so it should be pretty straightforward. Let's see what it says. This is weird. This is kind of odd here. This seems right for my memory, but that seems odd. Let's take a peek. I think out of all of these, the install Nessus, I think, was going to take a little bit to do. Yep, so that looks like that. Let's see. So they give you a curl statement now. The problem with this is that it won't change for each version, and so we don't want to hard code the numbers. We may have to do some iteration. And iterate over the particular files there. And someone might already have this. See, they keep doing a placeholder, which is annoying. Don't want to do that. So look at the agent install script and see if they do anything cool with it. Let's zoom in a little bit. So this one's using a hard-coded agent as well. So this may be a problem that needs to be solved. So what we might be able to do is see if ChatGPT can help us with that as well. Wherever it's at. There it is. I want to be able to curl the latest version down without modifying my code every time. This is how Tenable says to curl it. So this now says you can use the API. So one of the things we have to be worried about with ChatGPT is it just makes shit up sometimes, which is frustrating. But sometimes it's partially correct and you just have to figure it out. And we'll tell it to do it in Golang. So structs, however you say that, structs, yeah, I think that's right, are awesome because it basically allows you to tell it what file structure to be ready for when you do it. So I use those quite a bit when I program. So it's pretty cool that it's using them. So we have a lot of extra code here. Some of it might be junk. So one thing we don't even know is if this is like actually doing what it's saying, and I am skeptical, 100% skeptical. All right, so we actually do get JSON. So this is perfect actually. So we can look for the highest incremental version for our operating system. So we can look for, it's usually, this is really hard to see, isn't it? Usually it says Nessus, so we can look for That's Amazon. That is something different. So we can Control F, look for Kelly. And for some reason, it's not showing us. Ubuntu, Arch. It's going to be an AMD 64. Should be. Raspberry Debian. Could be this one. It's interesting that it didn't find my phrase. Windows, Mac. Well, let's see which one it had us download before. Ubuntu 16.04. So we're looking for Linux Debian AMD 64. So I think this is the one that we want. So let's see how many AMD. So there's only 2. And we want the Debian, so we may be able to use a regex string to be able to look for Debian and then AMD64.deb. The reason why we don't want to do Debian 10 is because Debian version could be incremented, and we don't want it to break the next major version that comes out. I can't believe this stuff is still going in the background. It's crazy. Still going. So I think what we'll do with that then is, look for this, and then, so we'll pull this JSON page here, and then we'll parse it for this line, and we'll have to parse JSON and be able to parse this out. And then we'll do a curl, basically a curl web request for that using this API. Then we should install it like normal, and we should be good. Now, the only other problem we'll have to install or only other problem to figure out is how to provide the key when you install via the command line. That will be the only issue. So this looks good. I think what I'm gonna do is do a separate file and say nessus.go, just so all the nessus information is here. We'll say package main, and that just lets this know it's part of the main package. And we can go ahead and drop this code and structure it properly. So what we'll do, I know this has the main, but we'll fix that and we'll call it in our actual main function. All right, so let's see what it does. Fetching latest version. Call it, so this does the download. We may have to debug it to see what the data looks like. And we could ask it actually. This is the file I want. We'll give it the file. However, I want it to download the file with Debian some number underscore amd64.deb. Update query to find this file. So it should be using regex for this. Let's see. See how clean this is. So this is the download. Fetch latest downloads. Here's the part we care about here. If string contains that and it contains underscore deb. So it's using two contains here, which is interesting. I don't think it's going to hurt us. I was expecting regex And we could probably, well, we could definitely force it to do this with regex instead, but this may just be easier. So it's saying, hey, find a file that has Debian. Now check the file again for this other string, and if it is, that's what we're going to download. So let's update our code here. So we have struct, fetch latest downloads. So I probably want this to return the JSON in, like if we were doing it, there should probably be 3 different functions here. 1 to pull the file, then 2 to parse the file for the Debian name itself, and then pass it back to a function that will then download that file. So we'll say download current Kali Nessus because that's what we're doing. Fetch latest. So what we'll do is let's break this apart and say func identify Kali Nessus. And it's going to return a string because it's going to return the actual Kali version. And for its input, we need it to take the JSON. So it pulls this, and this in the response. So the response is probably a string, I think. So I think it goes downloads. And string. And then we want it to, that's fine. Var data response. So it's going to be response data. But I don't see it using it. Data dot releases. So we may need to do this as type releases or data. Doesn't recognize that. It's a structure of type response data. That's what we need to do. So type, we'll call it download options. You usually want to make your variable names clear, fairly clear anyways. So all this can be down here. There we go. Let's line this up. And so we want to return file.url, else we'll have to figure out how to return. So it doesn't mind this because this is going to be a string, but we need to, so this is, it's only expecting a string. So probably string error. Yeah, so we need to do it the same format as that one actually. Here we go. So it doesn't understand what data dot releases. So let's return data dot. Well, let's return data. Let's return data, which means data and nil, which means this is going to return a response data structure. This is going to receive a response data structure. And then this is going to be download options dot releases. So that should work. Now the problem is we're going to have to, you have errors here because it's returning a string. Let's ask it how to return an empty one of these. This is my struct, and I need to know how to return an empty struct. Do shift enter there, add it there. Let's see what it says. So I may be able to just say like that. Or I could, yeah, that might work just as well like that. Don't know if this is the appropriate way to do it, but it's the empty version of it. And may come back later and fix that. All right, so it fetches, it returns a response. This takes in the response, returns what we need. This downloads the file. So now we just need to tune all this section up. That was the main section to do what we need to do. So let's see, fetch URL. So let's see. Let's replicate this because we have some work to do. Fetching latest Nessus version options. Fetching latest Nessus Kali Nessus version there. And this one, we don't want a URL. I'm going to say available downloads. And then we're going to do fetch latest downloads. All right, then we are going to say Kali download error because we need to handle the errors, and we need to do something with that error as well that we created. We'll deal with that in a second. And this is going to be then we're going to pass it available downloads. All right, so we have that. And now we should have, if everything works correctly, we should have now the specific Kali download that we need. And now we have to download it. It's my dog making noises. I want to zoom in here. This thing is killing me. There we go. That's better. I need to, next time, I'll zoom in a little bit more. All right. So we'll do this to handle that. And then we'll do that to handle that. We don't need this anymore. Question is, do we need to concatenate anything? Maybe not. Maybe it's supposed to return the URL. So that means we should just be able to do that. That. I don't know why it's doing all this. Might need to debug it to look at that one. It's downloading a crap ton of exploit DB stuff. So it's splitting the Kali download string for whatever reason. It's getting the parts and the file name. What is it doing with all this? Then it's saying Kali download file name. We'll look at this. I think it's going to break whenever we actually execute it, but that'll be fun. We'll just see what it looks like. But this should download the file, hopefully, and compensate for changes in major versions. Should be pretty good. So then, because of the way we structured it, was nice because now this just utilizes all the other functions. So we just call this guy and it'll do everything we need. And then we'll just write an install Kali function, or install Nessus function rather. Yeah, I should have told it what I adjusted it to, and so it wouldn't print out all this crap. I could also tell it to be more brief. So really all we need is this section. Gosh, I hate when it does that crap. So we'll take this, we'll create a new function, func install Nessus. And we're gonna have to add some stuff in a second. We'll just deal with that. So we definitely need this at the top. Should get rid of some of our errors. Oof, ugly. I got rid of some stuff. So now this is going to have to do file name. So Nessus file name, and it should be a string. Then there's too many return values, so we need to handle what it's returning here. So let's see, this is just returning an error, it looks like. There you go. Makes sense because it doesn't really need to return anything. It's just installing, and it should let us know it's done installing. So that should be sufficient. Let me just make sure these commands line up. And what's interesting is we should actually be able to use our function over here, run command. We should be able to use that perhaps as well, reuse that. All right, let me look at my code for Nessus, my old code, to see if we need to do anything else. So we just need to start and enable. Yep, that's it. That's all we need to do. The only other part we need to do now is figure out how to pass the code to it, the software key. So let's see if we can do that. So we want to automate as much as we can. Probably also create a new user would be great. Where is... Oh, here we go. Look at that. Oh, it's beautiful. The only hard part here is I need to figure out how I want to do this with, like, how to handle my key. I could just drop it in the folder. Yeah, I don't know. Don't know. I could drop it in the folder and then it could read it. We can add that code. Let's see. So I wanted to read it from a file in the current directory. There we go. This should be all the pieces we need now. Add those. Just replace these. Great. Looks like there's only one error. It's because it doesn't know what that is, and we just need to add it to our imports. This one has a lot more imports than I usually do. I usually try to minimize what I'm importing to limit risk. So I may go back and look at other ways to do this just to cut down on some of this stuff. And we'll put this at the end of this section. That's a lie. It isn't complete. Oh, yeah. I guess the install would be complete. That makes sense. And install is complete. And then activation and update is complete. Yeah, so that's necessary. So that's a big win right there for me because that's pretty quick. Also, now I need to add to create a user. the random password and to provide me that password. With a random password, with a random passphrase. See it do that. Stop this. A passphrase should use a minimum of 5 English words. See what it says. See how it does this. I'll be interested. Oh, it's actually giving it a word list. That's interesting. I don't like that. I really don't want to include a whole dictionary. So we use this one up here. I don't know if you can hear my dog growling, but he's definitely growling. So here we go. We'll take all this. We'll add it to. So this is like a good example why you split up your code into files per topic, because it gets pretty lengthy here. And some of these we don't even need. There's quite a bit of repetition here, and a good developer would remove some of that repetition and make it easier, like the command execution piece. But whatever, right? Just wanted to point that out there, though. Probably these two is what it's missing. Gosh, this thing's so beefy. Fixes all of our errors. Now let's see how it's actually executing this. So username, password. So I'll add this to the bottom of the code. Well, not the bottom. It's going to go into this. And one last thing I would like it to do is output the user and password to a file called nessuscreds.txt. The reason is we needed to put it somewhere, and then I'll need to distribute it to the pen tester in a secure fashion. Let's see. Oh, here we go. I was looking at the wrong code. Still going. Here's the right credentials. This is what we want. Then we just probably gonna write them with the update function. Yep, that's exactly what they did. Then we'll add that to the bottom of that function, which is all the way up here. We have an error somewhere. I'm blind, I don't see it. It says it's at the top here. Oh, this is it. It's missing a return. So the return, it's all the way up there. That needs to go down here. All right, so I think we're about done for this evening. We still have a little bit more work to do on it, but 2 hours in, not too shabby. So the big heavy lift here, which is awesome for me, is that we are now able to automatically find the right version of Nessus, install Nessus, activate Nessus with the key, create a new user with a random password, output that information to a file, and yeah, that will save a lot of time. Oh, and update Nessus as well. Update the I don't even remember what they call it. The plugin database. There you go. Plugin database. Cool. So yeah, I think that's it. This puppy is probably going to continue doing some downloads in the back. And it'll be finished for the next time we do some coding. But yeah, so that's it. Thanks for checking out this live stream. Sorry I didn't answer your question in time. I'll get better at looking at the chat. I wish I had like a notification thing there, but yeah. Next time, everyone.